Hey guys, welcome back to the latest episode of the Growing a Dental Practice podcast. My name is Mike Hennon and I'm your host. Today I have a great guest. His name is Zach Kramer. He is the VP of Business Development and Marketing at Progressive Payment Solutions over in the States. I've known Zach, I guess, a short while really. We've only spoken a few times.
I think it's been about a month. Sorry, I thought that was a question.
That's cool, man. It's only been a short while, hasn't it? But I've already been on your video, your vlog, which we're just talking about. So that's been great. And I have no doubt that sort of Progressive Payment Solutions and Patient Boost are going to be very collaborative in the future. So that's exciting. That's kind of why I wanted to get you on. So let's just I've kind of skipped over what you do. So we've mentioned the word payments and solutions. So people listening have probably worked it out. But Zach, tell me, before I ask you about yourself, tell me a little bit about the company. So what does your company do? Feel free to tell me about the history of the company as well. Obviously it's a family business, and that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the introduction, Mike. Always a pleasure talking to you. So essentially, we're Progressive Payment Solutions, and we're located in New Jersey. For anyone in the UK out there, we are about 20 minutes away from New York City, so not too far. But we were founded in 2004 by my father, Jonathan Kramer, and he had one goal in mind, which was essentially to get rid of all the questions in our industry. Because when you get bills from your credit card processor, it can kind of look like a phone bill. You don't really know what you're looking at, and there's a lot of interesting activity, let's say, going on. So he wanted to create a company that was more straightforward with people. But anyway, what we actually do here is credit card processing. So any business looking to accept credit cards or save on their existing credit card processing, that's what we do. So it's pretty cut and dry, nothing fancy around here. But yeah, we've been in business since 2004, and I think my father's been doing it since 99, I believe. So
Wow.
We've been around for quite some time.
Yeah. So you really do know the ins and outs of payments.
Absolutely.
And Zach, tell me a bit more about yourself. So how long have you been in the business and what's your background?
Sure. So I joined in 2017 after I graduated from school, but that was not always my plan. I actually was a finance major, and I used to work in Manhattan for Morgan Stanley. So essentially, what happened was my senior year, or I should rather my junior year, going into senior year, I had a internship with Morgan Stanley, and I always thought that was going to be it. That's what I was going to do, be on Wall Street, be one of those guys. I absolutely hated it. So, there goes four years of studying down the drain. No. But essentially, I graduated from school, and I was looking for something else to do. With a finance background, you could really get into anything. And my father said, "Hey, why don't you shadow me for a little bit, make a couple dollars, help me out around the office, and if you find a job, cool. If not, you're more than welcome to stay here." And that's kind of what happened. I really enjoyed what he was doing, and I said, "You know what? I think he's old school. He only did business through networking and referrals." And I said, "I really think I could vamp this up even further." So that's what I'm doing.
Brilliant, Zach. That's so good. So you never expected to be in the family business?
Not really, no. Like I said, I always kind of pictured myself on Wall Street and doing some trading, but it didn't work out that way. And I still use my finance background here in the office, which is fantastic. I kind of use that as an advantage. For example, whenever we do a proposal for someone showing them how much they'll save, I actually do forecasting for them. I show them what the future value of that would be over a period of 10, 20, and even 30 years. So they really can get an idea of what they can do with their money.
That's brilliant, Zach. So yeah, so it's your degree didn't go to waste.
Yeah, I guess not.
As soon as you said that, I was like, but you're in the payments industry. Like there's definitely a connection there.
Absolutely. So
Excellent. That's great. So Zach, but actually tell us a bit more about tell us how businesses and obviously specifically dental practices benefit in relation to your services. So actually maybe it's probably best to talk about more, in which situations do dental practices typically pay payment process fees and that kind of
yeah,
thing, and
of
then
course.
tell us how progressive payment solutions can sort of help them.
Yeah. So first, I'll kind of give like a small synopsis of the payment processing world and kind of where we fit in. So essentially, you have something called a ISO, which is an independent sales organization, and then you have the actual processor themselves. There's only a few actual processors, and they're rather large. You have First Data, which is one of the largest companies in the world, and then you have TSYS, another very very large company, and those are really the two main platforms that the majority of these businesses work off of. And essentially, what they do is they create their own software and services to integrate into either First Data or TSYS, the two large ones. So essentially, the business is federally regulated. All pricing is federally regulated. You cannot charge below a certain amount because then your company or the processor is going to lose money, and no one is in business to lose money. So what we hear a lot of the times is people saying, "Hey, Zach, this is what I'm paying." And I'm saying, that's not possible. That's below the cost of money. So let me take a look at your statements and see what's really going on here. So essentially, what goes on most of the time is, you take a company like PayPal and they say, okay, you're going to be paying 2.5%, they say, or 3%. What they don't say in the small print is that is for swiped transactions. So any transaction over the phone or keyed in is more expensive, and they don't tell you that until after you get the bill. So that's not good. Also, flat rate processing in general is not great because essentially every credit card out there has a different rate associated to it. The example that I give, being here around New York, is you have the New York Jets and the New York Giants. Each of them have their own credit card that they offer. It's a Visa rewards card. Their rates are different. It depends on the rewards that they're giving, and you don't know until the card is actually swiped. So why pay a flat rate on that? You're leaving money on the table. So what we have is something called interchange plus. The interchange is going to be the cost of the credit card, and the plus is the margin on the account, what the processor is actually going to be profiting. And what I hear a lot of the times is people saying, oh, I'm only paying 1%. They're not paying 1%. They're paying 1% over the cost of the card. And so their processor, or ISO rather, kind of said what they wanted to hear. It's not necessarily a lie because they are charging them 1%, but that's not what they're paying total. So we are very upfront with our clients. We tell them exactly what they're going to be paying, the interchange, and then plus the margin on the account. We tell them all the monthly fees that they're going to be paying, and we tell them really what to look out for. But I would say, in terms of what dental practices really need to look out for, specifically, going back on what I said, is really seeing what your rates are, because most of the time the dental practice is calling their patients on the phone trying to get paid. They're trying to uh, get the credit card information and put it in over the phone. They're not necessarily swiping it. I mean, I'm sure, someone goes in for a teeth cleaning, it's $50, $100, whatever it's going to be, they'll swipe their card. But for surgeries and things like that, they're usually, they want like a down payment or whatever. And then after the surgery is over, they have a payment plan with their client. And so if you're going to be taking payments over the phone, you need to know what that rate is going to be, number one. And number two, you need a good system in place like a software to allow those payments to go through. Because if you have an actual credit card machine and you're punching in the numbers, that could be very tedious. It's a lot easier to have a online software. And now this is more of a US based program, but there is now something called the zero fee program, which essentially practices are now allowed to pass the credit card fee off to the patient so that the dental practice doesn't have to pay that fee. And the reason Mike and I are on this podcast now is because we target dental practices specifically because we've been doing this for about 5 years since this came about, since it became legal to do this. And the majority of our business doing this program is dental practices. And we have all the systems in place for them to really pass along the fee to the patient. And they save, typically a dental practice around here is doing between $50,000 and $100,000 a month in revenue. That equates to around $3,000 to $7,000 in savings per month. And for a small family practice, that's life changing. That could be another employee. That could be new equipment. It could be on the personal side, whatever it needs to be. So that's really what we focus on.
That is a brilliant explanation. Like, you're so good at explaining things.
I try. It can get confusing at times, but that's I've been doing it for so long. So
yeah, so that's why you're good at. Because I guess it can be quite dry explaining the inner workings of the payment world, I guess.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the last.
It's not the most exciting. It's not the most exciting one.
I'm sure the last 5 minutes, whoever's listening to the podcast kind of blanked out, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Bottom line is we save people money.
Yeah. Well, so a couple of things I just learned from that, Zach, is so first of all, check with your processor what you're paying, because the rate that you think you're paying probably isn't correct. You're probably paying that fee plus like a baseline. You're probably paying like you say, a baseline plus a percentage. And another thing that sort of stood out was you're probably paying even more to take payments over the phone or just punching them in, which, like you said, like is very common within dental practices. It's very. I did it a lot only last week, where I sort of booked a dental appointment. They asked for a down payment, and I just said my details over the phone, and you could hear them beeping. And later on, I get a text message with a picture of the receipt because it's obviously come out the machine. And so actually, it's cost them quite a lot. So obviously, so one thing to point out now is obviously this sort of zero charge thing is only in the US. It was here in the UK, I believe, several years ago, but has now been banned. So you can't actually pass on those surcharges to your, I guess, standard customers. I believe it's still okay from a commercial perspective. So I guess if it's a business card or a business debit or a business credit card, but obviously from going back to my payment, I've paid say 50 quid, and a percentage of that is going to the card processing, like the payment or the payment processing company. And obviously that's going to add up, isn't it? That's going to be a real big add up.
Absolutely. And I would say the typical, I don't know what the pricing is in the UK for the most part, but typically in the US, the average pricing you're looking at around for swipe 2.5%, for non-swiped keyed all the way up to 3.5%, 4%. Not to mention a lot of the times, because margins are so thin, processors will throw random fees in there that make no sense, and they tell you it's necessary when in the reality it's not. So that's another thing you have to look out for as well.
Bloody hell. It's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
It literally is. And, I spend hours of my time going through people's credit card statements looking for these, we call them kind of, excuse my language, bullshit fees. We spend hours of our time going through statements and looking for those fees and trying to help our clients because we want to be as transparent as possible.
Yeah, brilliant. And I guess, is it a case of do dental practices think about these fees? Like, do they factor them into their things, or are they literally losing sort of 2-3% of everything they do?
Yeah, so I mean, we find that a lot of dental practices, they're so busy, they don't even care. They just want everything to work. They're like, okay, what's the bottom line? They don't need me to explain anything. If they want me to explain it, I will. But at the bottom line is, what can you save me, and how can you streamline it? The dentists, they're busy doing what they do. They're a dentist. They need to do oral surgery. They need to do cleanings. They need to do whatever it is they need to do. On top of that, they're running a business, so their time is very minimal. So we try to streamline it the best that we can. We get down to the bottom line. Hey, this is what you're going to save every month. If you want to move forward, we're more than happy to help you. If not, we're still happy to help you negotiate with your current provider so that you can get the best rate possible.
Perfect. So that's the case. So that's if you want to get them a better deal, essentially.
Yeah.
But sort of going back to the zero, do you also call it a cash discount program, or is
Yeah,
that, have I
well,
made that up?
so yeah, the
Or
industry name is cash discount program,
yeah.
but we call it the zero fee program. It just sounds a little bit better because cash discount it can be a little confusing. It's like,
Actually, and
oh,
zero fee sounds way better.
yeah. So we call it the zero fee, but
Yeah,
essentially
brilliant.
that program. I mean, we have tons of business. Ever since the pandemic, I would say 95% of our business, dental and not dental, is the zero fee program.
Mhm.
Costs are so high now that people they need to do whatever they can, not only to keep their costs low, but to keep it low for their patients.
Mhm.
So we always tell our clients, what they say to their patients is, hey, look, like, if you're going to pay with a credit card, it's okay, but we have to add the fee to it because we need to keep our costs low. If you want to pay by cash or check, you won't be charged the fee. It's as simple as that. It's for their convenience. It's for the patient's convenience, not the doctor's.
Yeah, excellent. So this zero fee is obviously, like you said, could be saving us a sort of small family practice between sort of $3,000 and $7,000
Yeah,
a month, which, like you say, is a significant amount. Now, I put that out because you actually have a vlog series, or you do vlogs. I've been on it, so I'm going to put that out there. But you're because I was like, what do you talk about? And I just love the fact it's kind of, you're talking about the things that businesses can do with the money they've saved. So it's not, oh, we're not just talking about how much we can save you. It's what have people done, or what can they do to
yeah,
sort of, I guess, further their business or their personal lives with the cash saving, if you like. So Zach, I'm going to ask you, what are some of the great things businesses can do, especially dental practices? What can they do with the money they've saved to further their business? Or what are some of the examples that you've heard of people?
absolutely. So one of my favorite examples is actually from a practice local in New Jersey. We say they were an anomaly. They were doing about 150 to 200,000 a month in processing. They're killing it, but they were getting hammered on fees. So we saved them about $15,000 a month. So it was absolutely crazy. I mean, on top of them doing a lot of business, they also were being taken advantage of on their credit card fees. So it was a one. We could have lowered their rates, and they would have saved 4 to 5 thousand a month off the bat. But they went with the zero fee program, and with that money, they actually renovated their office. They were in a it looked like a 1970s, 1980s type of location. The doctor, I would say he's in his 60s. He's probably going to retire soon, but he has a son working in there as well. And they upgraded all their equipment. They ripped out their carpet. They put down hardwood floors. They did a bunch of stuff. And I actually, he called me a few months ago and he was like, "This is everything that I've done. And with your money." And I was like, wow, it's unbelievable.
That's
Um,
incredible. And just that is actually incredible, isn't it? Like he's saving 15 grand a month,
yeah,
and either all of that or part of that he's reinvested in the business. So yeah, it's interesting to think like how much extra business he's probably getting because of the upgrade, because that sort of thing is important to patients. Like that's it's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is, honestly. And I mean, we have so many of these stories, just all over the board. I mean, one of my favorite ones, this is not dental related, but there's a pizzeria literally across the street from our office that we saved about. It wasn't a bigger one. It was like $2,000 a month we saved them, but this is a really small mom and pop pizzeria. So this meant the world to them. What they did was they actually swapped out their oven for a brick oven. I don't know what brick ovens cost in the UK, but here in the US, they could be $50 to $100,000 for a brick oven. Completely changed their business. Their pizza now, I mean, before it was pretty good, but now it's like next level. And they were featured on the Barstool One Bite, which was unbelievable. And their lines out the door now. I can't even get in there. If it's lunchtime, you're not getting in there. So we completely changed their entire business. So it was
That's
that's one
mental.
of my favorites.
That's so cool. You know what I realize, Zach, is that when I think of payment processing companies, I generally think of them as being sort of really greedy,
Oh,
really kind of,
absolutely.
like terrible businesses. But the stuff that the stuff you talked about, it sounds really good. Like you're helping them save money, you're helping them almost transform their businesses. Like it's you sound like a good guy.
We try. That's that's how we founded our entire business. And not to take too much more time, but the story goes, my father was his background was actually in fashion design. He used to design shoes for Kenneth Cole and such. And when he was looking to get out of that business, he interviewed for pretty much every type of industry possible. And one day he was doing a training for a random credit card processing company, and he comes home and he was talking to my mother, and he goes, "I don't think I could do this business because it's just so scummy." And my mom looked him right in the eye and said, "That's why you'll be great at it, because you're the opposite." And that's pretty much what kicked off this whole thing. And this was in like 99, 2000. I was in
That is,
second grade, but
oh man, that is such a great story.
yeah.
Oh man. Oh, so your mum has to answer a lot, has to answer for a lot.
She's been a big part of the success of the company as well. She doesn't work with us, but she
Yeah,
I don't know if she could handle being with myself and my father in the office,
yeah.
but but she's been a
Oh
big
man,
support.
oh man, that's brilliant. Honestly, Zach, that's so cool. So yeah, let's start to wrap it up. So
Yeah.
a couple of final questions. So what would be your number one piece of advice for any new or aspiring practice owners when it comes to their payment processing? Like, so either someone's starting a practice or they've just purchased a practice. What would you recommend they do when it comes to payment processing?
So my biggest recommendation is do not go through your bank. Your bank does not care about you. They are not going to give you good rates. Typically, I'm talking about larger banks. So like the Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, they partner with some of the larger processors and they have cookie cutter prices. They're trying to make as much as possible. Don't go through them. You're going to want a local company that can service you, that can be there for you. Um, and really help you out. It doesn't have to be local, but it could be like a smaller firm, essentially. So that's my biggest piece of advice if you're just starting out. If you already have processing in place, my biggest recommendation would to be every year rates are raised by the processor, typically in April. So it's coming up. Make sure you keep an eye on that change. It's going to be right on your statement. It's going to say the rates are going up. Keep an eye out on that. And if you see that, call the processor and say, I don't want my rates to go up. I want them to either stay the same or even go down. A lot of times we see people have the same processor for 10, 15, 20 years, especially in the dental industry. They never change. You really need to keep an eye on that. I would say call another provider. It doesn't have to be us. and do a rate review. It's completely free. So have someone do a rate review and take the time to have either yourself or your company accountant go through those rates line by line. It'll take maybe an hour of your time, but you're going to get a better understanding of what you're paying and what you need to be paying. So that's my biggest advice. And well, I would say the number one, the biggest advice would be to do the zero fee program, because if you're not doing that, you're just leaving money on the table.
Yeah, excellent, Zach. Well, so that is really good advice. I think the don't trust your bank is a good one, because you're right. People think that the bank is is there to look after them, but like you say, they generally just want to generate as much money as they can.
Yep.
And you're just a number. You're just a digit, aren't you?
What the bank does is they try to keep everything in house because they try to maximize their deposits. So they'll do whatever they can to get every aspect of your business. And they'll say, "Oh, it's a bundle deal, this, that, the other." It never is. It never is,
Yeah.
especially with the large banks.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Great advice. And then finally, Zach, if anyone listening would love to speak to you or reach out to you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach me is either by phone or by email. Is it going to be on the screen, or should I just say it?
I just say it, and I'll make sure that it's in the show notes with the podcast.
Okay. Yeah. So my email is zkramer at progressivepayment.com. Payment is singular. And then if you want to reach me by phone, you can give me a call on my direct line, which is 973-671-1722, and add a 1 in the beginning if you're not in the US.
Perfect. Brilliant, Zach. Yeah, I'll make sure that's in all those details are in the show notes, along with the Progressive Payment Solutions website address and everything like that. So that is brilliant, Zach. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the podcast. And thank you for explaining everything super clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I loved being on the podcast. I always love working with you, Mike. So I really do appreciate your time and always looking out for us.
Brilliant, man. Cheers. Talk to you soon.
You too.